the journey of the creative entrepreneur. I want to just talk about my journey of being an artist and an entrepreneur in the same light, and what that means to you as a creative professional in today's day and age. So, for as long as I can remember, I've always had two sides of myself, whether I was aware of it or not. Most of the times, not, and it would have helped me if I was more aware of these two different parts inside of myself. So I could have come to a stage of harmony a lot sooner, because without this awareness, without knowing this being a reality as a creative professional in today's day and age, it can cause a lot of turmoil. It can cause a lot of inner friction, and it can cause a lot of trouble when you are trying to be a professional, when you're trying to create for other businesses, when you're trying to build a business of your own, which is based off the back of your own creative talents. So for me, I was always someone who saw myself as a creative, was a creative, loved painting, always wanted to potentially go down the route of being a full-time artist. My degree was initially to study fine art, which I changed a month before I started university to graphic design. And with a lot of friction and with a lot of hesitation, I ended up going to university and studying graphic design and hating the first year of it. But what actually ended up happening was I started to really enjoy it. I started to enjoy the branding aspect of it. I started to enjoy the web design aspect of it. And eventually I was able to put a really quality portfolio together. And I think the main driving force behind that was just wanting to make my parents proud. I coasted through university, never got any really good grades, enjoyed branding projects, but was honestly preoccupied with other things, university life and whatnot, but managed to pull something out of the hat in the final year of university. So much so that I was able to get a job straight into London a few months after graduating. So got a job at a London creative agency at the time. They were based right in the heart of the city. And for me as a young creative junior designer starting at an agency, I was pretty nervous. I was pretty nervous, excited for moving into the city, this big, rustling, bustling, cutthroat world. And I wanted to know what it was about, and I wanted to see if I could survive in that world. And so I moved into London. I lived in Brixton for my first few years, and I was honestly on cloud nine. I remember going to my first few days of work, and yes, I was out of my comfort zone, but it was an awesome experience working at an agency. And the sort of glitz and the glamour, the late nights we were pulling, trying to support on jobs where I could, presenting my ideas in boardrooms, collaborating with other designers on real world projects. And this is something I'd never done before. I never did a year abroad or a year in work, whatever. So it was an awesome experience. And the drinking culture, going for beers in London, the late night works, the terrible balance between work and life and play. But it was a great experience, and I really wouldn't change it for anything. For me, my dream was always to run my own agency and to start my own business. Being someone who would consider themselves as an entrepreneur since an early age, my first creative business, if you will, was drawing Dragon Ball Z characters and selling them to my friends at break time in South Africa. And so I'd always been in this position of selling my creative expertise for money, for services. And so I was used to this idea of, okay, I'm a creative and I have a unique ability that I can help businesses solve by stepping into a creative role, whether it be designing websites, whether it be video editing, whether it be brand design, whether it be app design or product design or whatever it is. I had this ability and I was able to go and live in London and make a living out of it, provided that living was tiny. I think I was getting paid £21,000 a year. Now, appreciate not many people around the globe get a salary of that amount, so I'm going to take that and be grateful for it. But you will learn, if you do move or you do live in a city, that ain't going to get you very far. in that time, I met some amazing people, did some amazing jobs, learned how to video edit. I traveled to New York City, I traveled to Kenya, I traveled around America, and I edited on some jobs and worked on some jobs that were absolute global smashes, smash hits. I was an editor for the World 2026 football bid by the United States, Mexico, and I think Vladimir Putin was in the stage and he saw my edit live, and it was just, whoa, crazy. And working on some of these big jobs really gave me a lot of confidence as a creative professional. So at that stage of my career, I was in what I call the role of the creative employee. So I had a job, I had a creative job. I was getting paid to do it. Albeit I was on a 0-hour contract and I was working my absolute ass off, I was still a creative employee and I was making a living selling my ideas, my abilities. All right. So what I started to do when I was a creative employee, all the time in the back of my head, I was thinking, okay, how can I start my own agency? How can I get out of this corporate world and start bringing my dream of having a creative agency into the world? All right. And that was me as a young, naive designer. And I was very excited by the prospect of having my own business and making money and living that glamorous agency life. So what I started to do was pick up some freelance clients on the side. So I then became a creative freelancer. And I was still doing that. So what I would do, I would work at my agency job. I would then go to the gym, I would train, and then I would work in the cafe on little video edits and animations for my clients. I think I was making like 250 to 500 pounds per month extra freelancing. I would spend my Saturdays hustling and bustling and getting all of the social media content that I was editing for this client done, and I would deliver it, and then I would have a nice Sunday. And I remember this period of my life, I wasn't socializing a lot. I was really in this lone wolf mentality of just work my ass off so I could get to where I wanted to be. And oftentimes it was a dark and a challenging place to be, but eventually my freelancing business got to a stage where I was able to say to my agency business at the time, where I was getting really frustrated and bored with the same old work over and over again and the same working late night pitches over and over again. And frankly, I was getting sick of the drinking and drugs culture that the agency had going on. And I just wanted to get out of that. So what I did was I asked them for a raise, and they came back with an absolutely measly offer. And so I left and I handed my resignation in. And then what actually happened, funnily enough, was 6 days later, my agency called me and they said, Luke, we need your help. Your replacement quit 2 days after he joined because he realized he can't do this job. It's too out of his depth. So what ended up happening was they asked me for a day rate. So I told them what my day rate was. And I came in for, I think, a 14-day booking, and I earned more in that 14 days than I would have earned in maybe 3 months working at the agency. So that's just a funny little story to show you how you can, by putting yourself out of your comfort zone, step into something and you actually get rewarded for that. But what ended up happening after then, so I ran my freelancing business for a few months, and my old partner at the agency decided to leave as well and join up with me as a freelancer and put together an agency and start serving bigger corporate clients that way. So we did the classic leave the agency and start our own agency and start serving our clients. So completely lucky enough, we did that on the back of a huge contract that we got for a health and fitness client. And this was massive, to be honest. This was about £150,000 worth of work, which would be completed within 2 months. So this was the most amount of money I've ever made in my life. And it came with a whole lot of stress, but also just excitement. This was all flowing quite naturally. I left my agency, started my own agency, and already we have these massive contracts flying in, which was incredible. And so what ended up happening, for a few months, we worked our asses off. And then we got to a stage, because we had done, I reckon, about 2 years worth of work in 6 months, my partner, we decided to part ways. And it was a challenging breakup of a marriage, if you will. We're good friends now. on good terms, and I think it happened for the best. And so what ended up happening was I started working as a creative agency owner. Now, the difference being, I thought I was a business owner at this point, but I was not. In fact, all I did was own a job. I owned a job that I used to get paid for at another agency. I was simply just fulfilling that for myself. So I simply owned a job. I had what you might want to call a self-employment agency. And so what ended up happening is over the next 2, 3, 4 years was building up a huge client list of massive corporations, big businesses, and doing some incredible shoots for some incredible businesses. And it was an absolute heyday. And at the absolute peak of my career there, I think we did a 60K month where the jobs were just coming in and flying, and we were doing a good job. We were getting referrals, and it was a beautiful flow. I wasn't doing sales calls, I was doing order taking. And as an order taker, I had clients sending me briefs and just ticking off the budgets I would send to them and the quotes I would send to them. So this was an incredible moment and an incredible place to be in. But guess what? I was absolutely burnt out on wit's end. And I started to have some really challenging relationships with some clients, and I really started to take my work, as much as I wanted to see it as a business and be a business owner, I was sensitive. I cared about the work that I would do, and every time a job would go wrong or a client would kick off, I would take it incredibly personally. As much as people say to you as a creative, don't take your work personally, don't take it personally if a client doesn't like it or if they say something, it's a difficult thing to do. Especially when you wear your heart on your sleeve and your business is you, and your agency is you, and you own the job, then it is an incredibly difficult thing to do. And I think at the same time, I never had any great mentors in my creative agency. I was really just figuring stuff out as I was going. And the only processes I ever had in place were by a few producers who worked with me. And so I was very much leaving myself naked and open to absolute ridicule and absolute being taken advantage of, if you will. But what ended up happening was I had a huge amount of money in the bank, and I was running this whole agency, and it was an incredible experience. And then Bob's your uncle, COVID came along, and we were not able to shoot or film anymore. And what I then realized in that moment was that the landscape was changing, and that video production was changing from something which was an incredibly highly specialized set of skills, which it still is, was becoming democratized. Because people were starting to feel more comfortable shooting on themselves, hiring videographers directly into their business. So the business model started to change. So what I ended up doing was taking the specialized set of knowledge and skill that I had, which was video creation, and I started to create an online course teaching people how to create videos using their mobile phone. Because I figured if I didn't adapt, I was gonna die. And I wasn't making any money during coronavirus, and that's a prime example of having a business that is very dependent on your ability to go there and film. Because what happens if coronavirus comes back in? What happens if the government shuts your business down? You're going to be completely immobilized, and I did not want to do that anymore. So what I then started to do was create a digital product and then actually become a business owner, an owner of a system that then works for me, as opposed to me just being the guy pulling the strings, putting the people together, doing the editing myself, going on set, directing, making sure the clients are happy, making sure my freelancers are happy, which is essentially me owning a hectic producing job. It was hectic. And so I started to build an online course and a digital product which digitized my specific set of knowledge and skill. And I then became a business owner because I had a system that was working for me. And my system was essentially basically the ability to make sales online and then sell a digital asset without me having to go to go shoot, or without me having to do a set of 20 revisions on an edit. I could just sell my course to people and they would do it, and I would be like, whoa, they're actually getting results. And this is incredible. I'm learning what it's like to sell a product as opposed to sell myself. as opposed to selling a service, an agency service or a freelancing service. So I then transitioned into what I call the creative business owner, where I owned a system that worked for me. Now, over 100 sales later, and numerous, countless other consulting clients that I've been doing now, I was able to shift away, leave the city of London and move to the beautiful Bali now. And so that has been my journey so far as a creative entrepreneur. And I think it's an incredibly interesting one, the way we've laid it out here, based on this quadrant. So this quadrant is based off Robert Kiyosaki's cash flow quadrant, but I've tweaked it slightly so it essentially speaks more to the creative of us, because I thought that it really summed up beautifully the creative entrepreneur's journey. I haven't talked about C yet because that is the liberated creative. And if anyone asks me what my dream would be, what I would do if I had all of the money in the world, what would I do? Would I keep editing videos? Would I keep designing for clients? Would I be doing freelance jobs as I am currently now? No, frankly, I wouldn't. What I would be doing is using my creative ability to create unique works of art and to invest my time and money into passion projects that I truly desire to create. So for me, I have plenty of ideas that I've had over the months and the years, which I just have not had time to bring into creation. Ideas like music videos, ideas like animations, ideas like fully fledged films. And the thing is, yes, you can go out on a whim and go straight for the liberated creative. But if you're anything like me, who actually values and desires the entrepreneurial journey, I want to get to a stage where my creative endeavors and my entrepreneurial endeavors are joined as one. I'm creating wealth, I'm creating money, which is cash flow coming into the bank. I'm not reliant on clients or the government. And I have my own creative projects that I'm creating, have my own creative products that I'm selling. And then I am able to invest my time and my money into creative endeavors that I truly desire to create. So for me, being in that place is called the liberated creative. And that's where I am able to spend some of my time now, because I have created businesses of my own and systems of my own. But still, even today, I have to spend time in the freelancer world. I have to do jobs. I have to do some editing jobs here and there. I still have a few agency clients on retainer. I still have my online course I'm selling. So the whole idea is to be able to be on the quadrant, but always to be able to be working towards the right-hand side of the quadrant where the creative business owner lives, where the liberated creative lives. Because as the creative business owner, when you have systems for you, and you have businesses in place that are either being managed by people or automations, then that is freeing up and purchasing your time back so you can spend more time working on the creative passion projects that you were put on planet Earth to create and to make. So the creative entrepreneurial journey is one of two sides. There are creative entrepreneurs who end up living on the left-hand side of this quadrant, even though they think they are business owners. They own an agency and they work and they trade their time for money for the rest of eternity. And yes, you might have some time to work on your passion projects, but realistically, you don't make the impact that you desire because you are stuck and you are always answering to your clients. You're answering to the agency owners, because when a job comes in, that is your priority over your own heart's desires. And for me, my goal is to move away from that space and moving more into the creative business owner space, where I set up products and systems that work for me and that buy my time back, so that I can invest that time and that money, yes, into having a beautiful life and providing for my family, but also to scratch that itch of mine to work on the creative projects that I desire to work on, without having the need to sacrifice your own creative freedom and without having the need to sacrifice your own time and without having the need to sacrifice your own vision for someone else's vision. Because as creatives, our job in the world right now, in planet Earth's profession of a creative, we create based on a brief. The creative brief dictates what we do, and we're damn good at it. We're great at taking a brief or brand guidelines and turning it into something beautiful. But what about planting your own seed, your own idea, and spending your own money, bringing your own ideas into this world? What would you do if you had an unlimited budget? What would that look like to you? Would you create films? Would you become an artist? Would you paint? Would you build massive statues? Would you create digital NFTs? What would that be and what would that look like to you? To me, it would look like investing in documentaries around sport, around rugby, and motivational, inspirational films that I really desire to create. We actually have a documentary now in the works at the moment. My goal is to move more into the creative business owner, more into the liberated creative. And that is the creative entrepreneur's journey. That has been my own personal journey. And if this resonates with you, if you're anywhere on this quadrant, do let me know where you are. Let me know if this resonates with you. Drop a comment and I'll see you soon.